Writing about witches is like walking a thin line between myth and truth. I used to think of witches as something distant, legends, fairy tales, warnings told to children so they didn't sneak out at night. But the deeper I got into the stories about witches, the more I realized how real it all is. It's not just spells and cauldrons, not the pointy hats of Western stories. No, I believe witches are woven into the fabric of human history. And in Africa, the stories are more complex, darker, they're a lot more alive. Particularly West Africa, where I'm from. When I started writing Heathens, my little research started in the usual places. Old books, scouring online texts, but the witches I've been told about in my childhood pulled me in deeper. There's something raw about the magic there, something primal. It's not about witches being born under a full moon or cursed with powers or cooking over a cauldron, plotting to kidnap children. In many African cultures, witchcraft is a practice, something learned, something wielded. It's both feared, yet respected. In places like Ghana, for example, the Ashanti people believe witches have the power to harm or heal, to destroy or to protect. They have a dual nature. They talk about the Abaifo witches who can transform into owls, prowling the night in search of mischief, or worse. But it's never just black and white. You see, witches in Africa aren't evil by default. They are more human, with the same good and evil intentions as most humans, only they have more access to power and darkness. Like the stories in Zimbabwe where the Muroi, a witch, might be your neighbour or a family member, someone you know and trust. There's a constant fear that someone close to you might harbour these hidden powers, and it's that fear that often leads to accusations, stories of exile, and even death. A quick search for stories about witches in West Africa will show you that the belief is alive and well. It's this nuance that makes writing about witches so hard, especially in West Africa, where the belief in witchcraft is very real, and so are the consequences. Entire communities still drive women and even children out to witch camps. Isolated places where suspected witches are kept apart from society. There are still stories of these camps in the north of Ghana, where women are condemned based on visions or dreams. It's terrifying, but it's also fascinating how entrenched witchcraft is into the cultural psyche. It's not just superstition, it's power, social power, spiritual power, and political power. Now, I've always been drawn to writing stories about power. Who holds it, who fears it, and what happens when someone crosses the line. Witches are the embodiment of that tension, especially in African folklore. In many stories, they're not just figures of fear, but of control. They know the secret ways of nature, the hidden paths between worlds. They understand the language of herbs, the rhythm of the stars, the nature all around us. They can use nature as a healer or as a destroyer. But it always comes with a price. The power they wield is both a gift and a curse, and it's never given freely. There are always conditions. I'm Yoruba, from the Yoruba tribe in southern Nigeria. In Yoruba land, the Yoruba people speak of the Aje, the spirit of wealth and destruction. Aje is another name for witches, but they're also divine forces, almost godlike in their ability to grant prosperity or ruin. To write about them is to understand that witchcraft in this context is not just about the individual, but about community. The balance between the human world and the spiritual one. The Ajah sit at the center of that balance, tipping the scales as they see fit. But it's not all dark. In South Africa, there's the legend of the Sangoma, traditional healers who are often mistaken for witches. The line between witch and healer, in Africa especially, is blurred. The Sangoma commune with ancestors, channel spirits, and offer protection from dark forces. They are revered yet still feared because their power is something beyond normal human understanding. It's that same fear that fuels witch hunts and the accusations. In so many places, a woman with too much knowledge, a bit too much independence, suddenly becomes a witch. And sometimes that's the tragedy of it. Writing witches means writing about the power imbalance. It's about control, yes, but also vulnerability. Especially for women, especially in Africa, where even today a simple accusation can ruin a life. So how do I write about it? How do I capture that complexity, that tension without falling into the stereotypes? I think the answer lies in the truth behind the myths. Witches in any culture are a reflection of the society they live in. In Africa, that means they're tied to family, to the land, to ancient spiritual beliefs that shapes everything from politics to medicine. They're not just agents of chaos, they're keepers of knowledge, especially forgotten knowledge. The key is to respect that, to show that witchcraft is more than just casting spells. It's about survival, it's about resistance. It's knowing when to use the power you have and when to hide it away, lest it consume you. As they say, power is nothing without control. In the end, writing about witches isn't about just magic, it's about people. It's about the fears, hopes, and desires that make someone turn to power, to risk everything for it. It's about the weight of history, the echoes of the old stories and the forgotten ancestors. It's about being human and being other at the same time. That's the story I'm trying to tell with Heathens.